Hello, everybody. I'm Kanye West, and I'm running for my second term as president.
So, Mr. West, what are some important roles of being the president?
Some key jobs to being president, I think, are being chief of citizen, chief of state, commander in chief, chief legislator, party leader, and chief diplomat.
Could you explain to me now what some of these jobs do?
Well, all these jobs require a great president like myself in order to carry out the functions of the United States.
Okay, Mr. West, you mentioned being a chief citizen. What are the important roles and how do you be a good chief citizen?
Okay, so chief of citizen represents the people as the popular leader. So I'm in the best interest of the public.
Okay, so I realize that the chief of state is more of the spokesperson of a country and they represent the country, but what else is important that the chief of state does?
So the president is the only national elected leader, right? So I'm the representative of the country. I lead this country. So I need to be there for the country through tragic times, and I need to support the foreign country.
So a chief executive is recognized as one of the most important roles of the government. Can you explain to the people what this means?
Okay, so according to Article 2 of the Constitution, it entrusts the executive powers in the president. So it wants the laws to be faithfully executed. So this includes Congress, calling in Congress when necessary, and when there are problems that the president must solve. Okay, so I believe you forgot to recognize the commander-in-chief, but this actually is a very important concept to being a president, because the president has full power over the U.S. Armed Forces. American presidents have utilized this power more aggressively over the years, as they can position troops in offensive and defensive positions.
So, are any of the jobs that you mentioned similar in any way?
Yes, actually. The chief legislator and the chief diplomat are closely related. This is because the president can either choose to veto or pass bills by Congress. The chief diplomat is similar, as the president has the power to also make treaties.
I believe that the last job that you mentioned to us was the party leader. Can you explain this to us?
Yes, so when I'm elected president, I will become the leader of my party. So I'm going to be able to help other party candidates to become positions in government, to have positions in government. Article 2 of the Constitution assigns so much power into one person. So this shows how the United States' fate is in one person. So I intend to be a great president. That's why you should vote for me for president. And an additional important power the president has is he has the power to grant responsibility to forgive offenses committed by a person. So it's kind of like goes outside, and I tend to follow this rule.
So can you describe the Electoral College for us?
Yes, the Electoral College is the system used to elect the president. Once the system is understood, it can be very simple. Each state is assigned a certain number of electoral votes, and these electoral votes are determined by the state's population. In each state, whichever candidate wins the majority of the popular vote, that candidate receives the amount of electoral votes that state is assigned. After all the electoral votes are distributed to the candidates, they must have at least 270 electoral votes to win the population.
We all know that there is no such thing as a perfect system, so can you explain to us some of the positives and the negatives of the Electoral College?
Yes, one of the most crucial problems with the Electoral College is that the population per state is not proportional to the amount of electoral votes in every single state. There's also two other cons that need to be addressed with the Electoral College. The first one is what they call the winner-takes-all method. This method ensures that whichever candidate gets the majority of the popular vote in each state wins all of the electoral states of that vote. The other problem with this is that, as I said earlier, a candidate needs at least 270 electoral votes to win the election. If a candidate does not receive these 270 electoral votes, the House of Representatives chooses the president. There are also some pros to it. For example, the Electoral College reduces fraud during the election. Also, the Electoral College helps the smaller states.
So we know that Kanye West was actually president in 2016. Can you can you describe some strategies that he might have used to gain presidency?
There was actually one main strategy that won him this election. This strategy was very important because he focused on states such as California, Texas, New York, and Florida, which have the largest populations in the country, therefore they have the largest amount of electoral votes in the country.
First of all, in terms of elections, the type of election system would basically be the same, except the candidates with the top two, most votes, are going to be elected presidents. And since this executive system would basically cancel out the problem of an imperial presidency, there would be no extra safety measures that would need to be taken in order to prevent expansion of power. There would be two vice presidents that would be elected the same way as the presidents would, and this would actually solve a problem in which if one president is sick or impeached or even dies, one of the vice presidents can take over that president's role. There's actually a lot of agreements going on whenever people have to share powers. Both presidents would have to agree on signing a bill, although only one president has authority to veto a bill. They would have to agree on carrying out executive orders, on the text of the State of the Union address. They would have to agree on a single nominee to fill an empty judicial seat, and they would also have to agree on members of the cabinet. Each president can actually overlook different areas of authority, like they can look over them when they're sharing powers.